If you're drawn to stories that blur the line between desire and consequence, you're gonna love this. Like this video, subscribe for more conversations about love, temptation, and the psychology behind our choices. Drop a comment below. If you want it in your hands, paperback, or hardcover, go to Amazon and get your copy today. The question is simple. Are you willing to give up the love of your life for a temporary moment of pleasure?
Chapter 1. Echoes of the Dream. Jasmine awoke covered in sweat. She woke with a sharp, startled gasp, as if she had surfaced too quickly from a world she had not been meant to leave behind. Heat clung to her skin, soft and lingering, the kind that made her aware of her own body in a way that felt unfamiliar and unsettling. Her breath came uneven as her eyes adjusted to the dim light of early morning. Shadows stretched across the bedroom walls, but none of dawn's coolness reached her. She felt flushed, awake in a way that left her disoriented rather than rested. Her heart raced, pounding hard against her ribs as though it had been startled awake with her. The sheets were twisted around her legs, gathered and warm, as if she had moved restlessly through the night. She pressed her hand to her chest, expecting the sensation to fade.
It did not. Something pulsed beneath her skin, deep and insistent, a quiet echo that refused to settle. The dream lingered, not as images, but as feeling. It had not been explicit. There were no sharp details to cling to. Instead, there had been presence, a closeness that felt intentional, a pull that felt undeniable. In the dream, she had not questioned why she was there or who stood beside her. She had simply known she belonged in that moment. That was what frightened her. She sat up slowly, smoothing her hands down her arms as if gathering herself back together. Her skin still hummed. Her body had reacted before her mind could understand why, and the awareness made her stomach tighten. It was not the dream itself that unsettled her. It was how real the emotion beneath it had felt, the sense of being seen without effort.
Known without explanation. Held in a way that did not require negotiation or compromise. She had felt wanted, instinctively and deeply, in a way that her waking life had not given her in a very long time. She could still hear his voice, low and calm, lingering somewhere beneath her thoughts. It had spoken her name with certainty, as if he had always known it. The feeling pressed behind her sternum, aching and hollow all at once. She turned her head toward the other side of the bed. Louis slept soundly, his back to her, his breathing slow and steady. He had not stirred. He had not felt the shift that had pulled her awake. He did not sense the unease curling through her chest or the quiet panic blooming behind her ribs. He slept untouched by the night. She watched him for a long moment, waiting for something. A movement, a murmur, anything that suggested he had felt even a fraction of what she was still carrying. Nothing came. Loneliness crept in quietly, not sharp enough to sting, but heavy enough to settle. She wanted to reach out, to wake him, to tell him something felt wrong in a way she could not explain. She already knew how that conversation would go. He would ask questions she did not have answers for. He would brush it off or joke about it. He would not understand because he had never experienced anything like it. He would not see how shaken she felt inside. Jasmine slipped quietly out of bed. The floor was cold beneath her feet, grounding in a way the bed had not been. She pulled her robe around her and tied it loosely, kneading the weight of fabric against her skin. Even the dim light felt too sharp. Everything felt too loud, too present. She needed quiet. She needed space. She needed a voice that grounded her. Curling into the leather chair by the window, she drew her knees up beneath the robe. The warmth inside her did not fade. The ache beneath it did not soften. Her hand reached for her phone before she fully decided to call. Her thumb scrolled until it stopped at the name it always stopped at. She hesitated. It was early, too early. Calling now felt intrusive, unfair. But the silence pressed harder, and the thought of sitting alone with whatever this was made her chest tighten. Before she could overthink it, she pressed the call button. 1 ring, 2, then a soft inhale. Jasmine?
Renee's voice was thick with sleep, but alert, as if concern had pulled her awake instantly. "What's wrong?" "I didn't mean to wake you," Jasmine whispered. "I just needed to hear your voice." Renee's tone sharpened. "What happened?" "I had a dream," Jasmine said, hugging herself. "It felt too real. I woke up and it didn't leave me. I still feel it."
"Him," Renee said quietly. "Talk to me."
"There was a man," Jasmine said. "I never saw his face, but I felt him. He knew me, like he had been waiting. His voice was right beside me, telling me not to wake up. And when I did," her voice broke. "It felt like something important slipped away." Renee stayed silent, listening. "My body reacted," Jasmine continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I don't understand why." "You sound shaken," Renee said gently. "I am." "Dreams hit hardest when you're tired," Renee said, "when you feel unseen." "I didn't feel unseen in the dream," Jasmine whispered. "That's the problem. I felt held, noticed, wanted." Renee exhaled softly. "And you don't feel that with Louis." The truth landed heavily in Jasmine's chest. Not anymore. Maybe not for a long time. Silence stretched between them, weighted with things neither of them wanted to name. "Are you scared?" Renee asked, "because the dream felt better than your reality?" A tear slipped down Jasmine's cheek. "Yes." "There's no shame in wanting to feel alive," Renee said. "He understood me instantly," Jasmine whispered, "without me explaining anything." "And that's what you've been missing," Renee replied. The truth settled deep enough to steal Jasmine's breath. "I didn't know who else to call," Jasmine said. "I'm glad you called," Renee answered, her voice softening in a way that felt intimate. "I want to be the person you trust with the parts of you no one else sees."
Jasmine hesitated. That sounded personal. "It is," Renee said. "You matter to me, more than you realize." The words settled, quiet but possessive in a way Jasmine did not fully examine. "Try to sleep," Renee added. "Tomorrow will feel different." "Maybe. I'm usually right." A faint smile touched Jasmine's lips. "Good night." "Good night, Jazz." The call ended. The quiet returned, but her body did not settle. She pressed the phone to her chest, feeling her heartbeat beneath it, steadier now but altered. When she returned to the bedroom, Louis had not moved. His breathing remained even, untouched. She slipped back beneath the covers without touching him. The space between them felt colder than the air. Jasmine stared at the ceiling as fragments of the dream replayed. The voice, the certainty, the longing that had no name yet. Her whisper barely filled the room. "What is happening to me?" No answer came. Only Louis's breathing, steady and impossibly far away. Chapter 2. A Stranger with Familiar Eyes. Jasmine Simmons was the kind of woman who made rooms hesitate. Conversations did not always stop, but they softened. Laughter lowered itself without instruction. People shifted in their seats, straightened their posture, became more aware of their hands, their voices, their expressions. A quiet current passed through a space the moment she entered, as if the air itself recognized her before the people did. She never chased attention. It arrived uninvited, inevitable, louder than she ever asked for. Her beauty carried intention, as though crafted with care rather than chance. Warm, golden brown skin that seemed lit from within. Loose spirals of dark curls that framed her face whether she tried to tame them or not. Almond-shaped eyes that missed very little and revealed even less. Full lips capable of warmth or steel, depending on the hour and the audience. Most people saw only the surface. They noticed the curves first, the small waist, the unforced sway in her walk. They imagined her as someone's fantasy, someone's prize, someone's muse. A woman meant to be admired, pursued, consumed. Few paused long enough to consider she might belong only to herself. What they never saw, unless she allowed it, was the mind behind the beauty.
Jasmine observed before she interacted. She listened more than she spoke. She noticed micro shifts in tone and expression that others glossed over. She remembered conversations people forgot they had. She caught the way a smile failed to reach someone's eyes, or how silence often hid avoidance rather than peace. To some men, this combination was intoxicating.
To others, it was threatening. She learned early that her face and figure entered rooms several seconds before her name ever did. Boys stared too long. Grown men felt entitled to their own interpretations of her body. Compliments rarely arrived clean. They came coated in implication. You are too pretty to be alone. You must have men lined up. You look like trouble. By middle school, she understood two truths adulthood would only confirm. Being noticed was not the same thing as being valued. Being wanted was not the same thing as being safe. Her first crush cared more about what she might allow than who she was. Men she trusted watched her with the wrong kind of interest. Family friends let their gaze linger longer than innocence required. She learned exits before algebra, tone before boundaries, and the subtle art of shrinking herself without disappearing. Then came the night. A man she trusted crossed a line she never invited him near. She did not have language for it. Not then, but the loss was immediate. Something quiet and tender inside her was stolen, and peace no longer felt like a natural state of being. She learned how quickly people could rewrite a girl's truth when it made them uncomfortable, how silence could feel safer than being believed. She learned to smile in photographs with that secret folded beneath her ribs. She learned to sit across from people who would never understand her. She folded her pain so deep it blended with her marrow. Over time, she crafted rules for herself, boundaries she never announced out loud. No closeness without trust, no touch without consent, no tolerance for disregard. She lived in what she privately called the recovery zone, a half-lit place where she worked, laughed, even flirted, but never fully opened. It was controlled, predictable, safe. It was also lonely. Renee noticed. To Renee, Jasmine was too beautiful, too intelligent, too young to live like a widow with a pulse. Jasmine disagreed, but Renee was relentless. She insisted Jasmine deserved more than caution and solitude. Eventually, she persuaded her to allow one evening, one man, one carefully structured exception. Public setting, no romantic atmosphere, no pressure, one exit plan if needed. Renee agreed and showed up with her boyfriend as a buffer. Jasmine wore something intentional but comfortable. She never dulled her beauty, but she never performed for it either. Then came Louis. He was not flashy. He did not enter the room as if it belonged to him. He had a build that suggested strength, but carried himself with quiet confidence. Renee agreed and showed up with her boyfriend as a buffer. Jasmine wore something intentional but comfortable. She never dulled her beauty, but she never performed for it either. Then came Louis. His smile was warm rather than practiced. His eyes were steady. His voice was deeper than she expected, controlled, never pushing. So Jasmine did what she always did. She watched. He was polite to the server. He listened instead of waiting to speak. He did not rush to impress or bury her in compliments. His eyes never wandered. Interest, yes. Curiosity, yes. Hunger, no. By the end of the night, one truth settled quietly inside her. He felt safe enough to see again. Group outings became coffee. Coffee became walks. Walks became long phone calls that stretched late into the night. Her guard never disappeared, but it cracked just enough to let him through. When she told him, in hesitant fragments, about the man who had violated her trust, Louis did not fill the silence with platitudes. He did not ask for details or attempt to fix what could not be fixed. He listened, jaw tight, expression pained but respectful, and said quietly that she deserved better. It was the first time she shared the truth with a man and felt no regret afterward. Slowly, she allowed him into spaces she once protected with barbed wire. Intimacy came at her pace, gentle hands, nervous laughter, an understanding that stop meant stop. His respect felt like oxygen.
For a time, he was everything she hoped he would be. Present, attentive, warm. Then time did what it always does. Lewis's schedule grew heavier. Odd shifts, long nights, contracts that kept him moving and distracted. He came home exhausted and quiet. Jasmine tried to understand. She cooked his favorites, rubbed his shoulders while he checked emails, made space for his fatigue. Then the distance reached his heart.
Conversations shortened, affection thinned, laughter faded. Intimacy became something she reached for instead of something he offered. She touched him at night. He rolled away. She reached for his hand. He tucked it beneath the pillow. She voiced concern. He dismissed it. It is work. You are overthinking. I am tired. Her past whispered cruel questions. Maybe she was too much. Maybe she was not enough. Maybe someone else now filled the space she could not reach. One evening, after another late arrival and another thick silence, she asked what she could no longer hold inside. How was work? Same as always. She told him she was worried. He asked if he could sit down before she started. Her chest tightened. She told him she felt like a roommate instead of a partner. He told her she always assumed the worst. The words landed exactly where he aimed them. She asked if he still wanted her, if he still wanted them. He did not answer. Deflection replaced truth. Half answers replaced clarity. She asked if there was someone else. He called her dramatic. Nothing resolved. Everything cracked. That night, when he finally touched her, the tenderness felt hollow. She told him to sleep in the other room. He told her to go instead. She did. The click of the guest room door sounded like something closing she could no longer reopen. She cried quietly, not only from heartbreak, but from disappointment. The deeper ache of trusting someone who slowly stops choosing you. Across the hall, Lewis sat awake, his own storm pressing in. He knew she was not imagining everything. He had not crossed a physical line, but he had allowed others to blur. Messages he should not have answered. Conversations he should have ended. Choices that were not innocent. It was easier to be irritated with Jasmine than to face himself. Across the hall, Jasmine curled beneath the blanket, chest aching. If this was what love felt like now, what would it look like a year from today? She had no answer, but beneath the hurt, beneath the dim and stubborn disappointment, something else stirred. The dreams she had, the presence she felt, the whispers she could no longer ignore. Her inner world was shifting, and the woman she had learned to manage and mute was no longer willing to stay silent. Chapter 3. The First Pull. Jasmine had always believed she was good at reading people. It was a skill she learned early, born out of necessity rather than confidence. Growing up, she learned to watch eyes before listening to words, to read silence before trusting reassurance. It kept her safe more often than not. Yet lately, that instinct felt dulled, as if she were deliberately ignoring signals she could no longer afford to miss. Lewis stood at the kitchen counter, his back turned to her, scrolling through his phone with an ease that felt rehearsed. He was relaxed in a way that did not quite reach his shoulders. She noticed small things now. The way his jaw tightened when a message came through. The way he angled the screen away, just enough to be subtle. The way his laugh came a half-second too late when she asked him about his day.
"You are quiet," he said without looking up. "So are you," she replied. He smiled then, turning toward her with the familiar warmth that had once been enough to calm any doubt. He crossed the space between them and kissed her forehead, lingering just long enough to make her feel guilty for questioning him. "Long day," he said. "I am just tired." She nodded, accepting the answer even as something in her chest resisted it. Tired was becoming a convenient word, a place to hide conversations, a shield against explanation. Jasmine leaned against the counter and folded her arms loosely across her body. She told herself she was being dramatic, that relationships went through quiet seasons, that trust meant not interrogating every shift in behavior. She had promised herself she would not become suspicious just because her past had taught her how easily people disappeared. Still, the unease stayed. They ate dinner together that night, sitting side by side on the couch with plates balanced on their knees. The television played softly in the background, but neither of them was watching it. Louis laughed at something on the screen, then glanced at his phone again. Jasmine caught the movement this time. "Everything okay?" she asked. He looked up quickly. "Yeah, just work stuff." She studied his face. He looked sincere, or at least practiced enough to appear so. She hated that she could not tell the difference anymore. "Do you ever feel like you are living two lives?" she asked suddenly. Louis blinked. "What do you mean?" "I do not know," she said, shrugging. "Just that sometimes people show one version of themselves to the world and keep another locked away, like a backup plan." He chuckled. "You are overthinking again." The words landed softly, but they carried weight. Overthinking. She had heard that before. It was always used when someone wanted her to stop asking questions without actually answering them. "Maybe," she said quietly. Louis reached for her hand and squeezed it. His touch was warm, grounding, familiar. She hated how easily it still worked. Later that night, after Louis fell asleep, Jasmine lay awake staring at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the streetlight outside. She listened to his breathing, steady and deep, and tried to convince herself that this was what peace sounded like. Instead, her thoughts drifted backward. She remembered Renee's laugh earlier that week, the way it lingered too long when Louis told a story.
The way Renee's eyes flicked to him before responding to Jasmine, as if checking alignment. It had been subtle, easy to dismiss, but it had lodged somewhere in Jasmine's awareness like a splinter. She rolled onto her side and closed her eyes. Trust, she reminded herself, trust is not control. Yet trust was supposed to feel safe. This felt like standing still on a cracked surface, hoping it would not give way beneath her feet. The next afternoon, Jasmine found herself at work struggling to focus. Her computer screen blurred as she reread the same email for the third time. Words lost meaning. Her thoughts kept circling the same questions she refused to ask out loud. She glanced at her phone on the desk. No new messages from Louis. No check-in. No small reassurance. It should not have mattered, but it did. When her phone finally buzzed, her heart lifted before she could stop it, then sank. "Renee, are you busy tonight?" Jasmine hesitated before responding. "Why?" "Just wondering. Might stop by later if you are home." Jasmine stared at the screen. Renee rarely asked. She usually announced. "Sure," she typed back. "Let me know." She told herself she was imagining the tension in her own reaction, that nothing about this exchange was unusual. Renee had been part of her life for years, long before Louis, long before complications, and yet something shifted. Renee arrived just after 7, her energy filling the apartment the moment she walked in. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her purse on the chair, and hugged Jasmine tightly. "You look tired," Renee said, pulling back. "You okay?" "Yeah," Jasmine replied. "Just work." Renee's gaze lingered on her face for a moment, as if searching for something. Then she smiled brightly and moved toward the kitchen. "Where is Prince Charming?" she asked casually. "Running late," Jasmine said. "He said he might stop by later." Renee nodded. "Figures." They talked for a while about nothing important. Work frustrations, old memories, mutual acquaintances. It felt normal enough, comfortable, almost too comfortable. Jasmine caught herself relaxing despite her earlier unease. Then Renee mentioned Louis's office. "I swung by his job the other day," she said lightly. "Dropped off some paperwork for a friend." Jasmine looked up. "You did?" "Yeah, big place. Kinda cold. I do not know how he works there all day." Something tightened in Jasmine's chest. He did not mention that. Renee shrugged. Probably slipped his mind. Probably, Jasmine told herself. Probably nothing. Still, the thought lingered. When Renee left later that night, Jasmine stood at the door watching her walk down the hall. Renee turned back with a smile. "You know I love you, right?" she said. Jasmine smiled in return. "I know." The door closed softly behind her. Louis did not come by that night. He texted just before midnight. "Got caught up. Sorry. Tomorrow." Jasmine lay in bed reading the message over and over. Tomorrow was becoming another convenient word. She thought about the version of herself she used to be, the girl who demanded clarity, the woman who trusted her instincts even when they led to uncomfortable conversations.
Somewhere along the way, she had softened. She told herself it was growth.
Maturity. Compromise. Compromise should not feel like erasing pieces of yourself to keep someone else comfortable. When Louis finally showed up the next evening, he brought flowers, red roses. Jasmine accepted them with a smile that felt practiced even to her own ears. "For you," he said, "I know I have been distracted." She inhaled their scent and nodded. "Thank you." They sat together on the couch again, the same familiar positions, the same comfortable closeness, and yet Jasmine felt like she was watching the moment from outside herself. "You ever feel like something is off, but you cannot explain why?" she asked him. Louis stiffened almost imperceptibly. "You mean with us?" She met his eyes. "I mean in general." He studied her for a moment. "You trust me, right?" The question was simple.
Too simple. "Yes," she said, because saying no felt like opening a door she was not ready to walk through. Louis smiled and leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. "Then do not let your head talk you out of something good." Something good. The phrase echoed after he said it. Later, alone again, Jasmine stood in the bathroom staring at her reflection. She looked the same as always, composed, put together, capable, yet her eyes told a different story. She touched the edge of the sink and leaned forward slightly. "Pay attention," she whispered to herself. "Just pay attention." She did not know then that this was the last quiet moment before the fracture, that the small dismissal she accepted now would soon turn into something undeniable, something violent in its clarity. For now, she climbed into bed beside Louis, letting his arm drape across her waist.
She lay still, listening to his breath, telling herself that love required patience. What she did not yet understand was that patience, when misplaced, becomes self-betrayal, and this was only the beginning.
Chapter 4. Unexpected Sparks. Jasmine woke with the same sick feeling pressing against her ribs, a heavy, twisting dread that made the morning feel no different from the night before. Nothing had been resolved, nothing had eased. The tension from last night clung to her like smoke. Something was wrong. Wrong enough that her body felt it before her mind could form the words. She waited up from Louis the night before, hoping to finally talk, hoping he would walk through the door ready to explain what had been pulling him away from her. But like so many nights before it, he never came home when he said he would. No calls, no texts, no apology. Just silence. By morning, that silence had grown sharp enough to cut. She called his work. No answer. His cell, straight to voicemail. That was the moment the dread hardened into something undeniable. She grabbed her keys and called the only person she trusted to face the truth with her. Renee opened her front door within seconds, her expression already soaked in concern. "What's wrong? You look like you're about to faint." "I have a feeling something isn't right," Jasmine breathed. "Louis has been acting strange, coming home late, not answering calls, avoiding me, and we haven't been close in weeks. Renee, I keep having dreams, nightmares, where I see him with the same woman every time. Do you think I'm losing my mind?" Renee exhaled softly. "It's just a dream, Jazz." She shook her head. "It's more than that. Last night I asked him if there was someone else. It took him almost a minute to answer. A minute, Renee. If somebody's innocent, they don't think about their answer." "If you feel that strongly," Renee said gently, "then we'll go find your peace of mind." Renee exhaled softly. "It's just a dream, Jazz." She shook her head. "It's more than that. Last night I asked him if there was someone else. It took him almost a minute to answer. A minute, Renee. If somebody's innocent, they don't think about their answer." "If you feel that strongly," Renee said gently, "then we'll go find your peace of mind."
"Come on," Jasmine said, voice suddenly hard. "Let's go." Renee stared at her for a long second. "You do know if you go looking for something, you're bound to find it. Then let it be whatever it's gonna be." When they pulled into the parking garage of Louis's job, Jasmine's breath caught. "There," she pointed sharply, "that's his car." "So he's at work," Renee said. "That's good."
Then why isn't he answering any call? Jasmine shot back. And look around. Nobody else is here. Renee hesitated. Think about this before you go in there. You could be making a mistake. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. That car next to his, I know that car. Renee exhaled in defeat. Okay, I see you're really doing this. They made their way to the front entrance. The security guard refused to buzz them in at first, citing policy. But Renee, quick on her feet, recognized him from the club scene and spun enough casual charm to get him to open the doors.
Make it fast, he warned. I'm not supposed to let anyone in after hours. We appreciate it, Jasmine said tightly. Her pulse thundered as the elevator climbed floor after floor. Each ding felt like a countdown. Each breath tasted like metal. You sure? Renee asked quietly. I'm here, Jasmine whispered. I have to know. The elevator door slid open on the 12th floor. Renee followed behind her, shoulders tense. They strode to the entrance of Lewis's office, the air thick with unspoken dread. Jasmine threw the door open, the sound cracking like a whip. She froze in the doorway, her breath caught in her throat, a silent scream trapped behind her teeth. Renee was right beside her, her jaw slack, her eyes wide with a horror so profound it was almost beautiful. The scene before them was a carnal tableau, a raw, primal act that neither of them could process, let alone believe.
Jasmine's vision tunneled, the edges tinged with a bloody crimson, as rage, pure and undiluted, flooded her veins. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of violence. The sweat sheening on Lewis's back seemed to boil, turning red in her mind's eye. She was a statue carved from ice, every sound in the room muted, every detail sharpened to a painful point. Time warped and stretched, and in that suspended moment, a single, clear thought burned through her consciousness. Kill him. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning for a weapon, for anything that could end the life of the man who was ending hers. Oblivious, Lewis continued his assault, gripping the woman's long black hair like reins, yanking her head back as he impaled her on his shaft. She clawed at the chair, her knuckles white, bracing herself against the onslaught. A high-pitched, animalistic scream tore from his throat as he crumpled, his hands flying to his groin, his body convulsing in agony. The pain was a white-hot explosion, a universe of suffering that made death seem like a gentle release. He looked up, his eyes wide with shock and pain, to see Jasmine standing over him, her chest heaving, her face a mask of pure hatred. In her hand, she clutched a heavy gold letter opener, its point glinting in the office light. She didn't hesitate. She brought her foot down again and again, stomping on his ribs, his back, any part of him she could reach. He curled into a fetal ball, a pathetic, whimpering mess on the floor. "So, this is what you do, you piece of shit, you worthless fucking pig," she spat, leaning down, her voice dripping with contempt. "If I didn't value my freedom, I'd gut you like a fish right here." The woman was scrambling, fumbling with her clothing, hands shaking as she tried to pull herself together. Jasmine grabbed a fistful of her hair and yanked her backward, the force snapping the woman off balance. She hit the floor hard, the sound sharp and final against the polished surface. Jasmine did not hear herself scream. She felt it tear out of her chest, raw and uncontrolled. She lashed out with her foot, once, twice, the motion fueled by shock and something feral she did not recognize as her own. Renee collided with her from the side, wrapping her arms around Jasmine's waist and pulling her backward with all her strength. "Jasmine, stop!" Renee shouted, breathless. "Enough! We have to go, now!" The woman on the floor curled inward, sobbing, arms wrapped around her stomach as if trying to disappear into herself. "Let me go!" Jasmine screamed, fighting Renee's grip. "Let me go!" "Listen to me," Renee said urgently, dragging her away. "This ends right now. We are leaving." Jasmine wrenched free just long enough to look back. Her chest heaved as she tried to make sense of the scene, of the broken room, of the shattered version of her life lying scattered across the floor. Then she noticed Renee. Renee was making small, frantic gestures toward the woman on the ground. Subtle, controlled, protective. Jasmine's breath hitched. "What is that?" she demanded, voice hoarse. "Why are you doing that? You know her." Renee's face hardened instantly. Whatever softness had been there vanished. "Yes," she said flatly, "I know her." The woman pushed herself upright slowly, mascara streaked, hands shaking. When she turned around, the room tilted again.
She turned away without another word. Behind her, Renee lingered. Her face was unreadable as she looked at Natalie, who stood frozen in the wreckage of the office. Renee lifted her hand and struck Natalie across the face. The sound echoed, final and unforgiving. "You crossed a line," Renee said quietly. "Do not ever mistake silence for permission." Natalie stumbled backward, stunned. Renee stepped over Louis, who lay groaning on the floor, and delivered one sharp kick to his side. "And you," she said, venom low and controlled, "you earned every bit of this." She followed Jasmine out. The elevator ride down was suffocating. Neither woman spoke. Their reflections stared back at them from the mirrored walls, unrecognizable. When they passed the security desk, the guard glanced up, concern flickering across his face.
"Everything okay?" he asked. They did not answer. He watched them leave, unease settling in his gut, then stood and headed upstairs. Louis's office door was still open. "What happened here?" the guard asked, stopping short at the sight of overturned furniture and scattered papers. Louis struggled upright, blood staining his shirt. "Nothing. It is handled." "You are hurt," the guard said. "Do you need medical help?" "No," Louis snapped. "Just go." The guard turned to Natalie. "Ma'am, are you all right?" "Yes," she said quickly. "I am fine." "I will need your name for the report." She hesitated, then spoke. "Paula Freeman." The guard nodded and stepped out to call his supervisor, already forgetting the women he had let upstairs earlier. Natalie leaned toward Louis. "Get me out of here." "I am ruined," Louis muttered.
"My job, everything. Move," she hissed. "Now." Down in the parking garage, Jasmine finally broke. The sobs came hard and violent, ripping through her chest. Renee pulled her close, rubbing her back, saying nothing. "I tried," Jasmine whispered. "I gave him everything." Renee closed her eyes. "You did not deserve this." Jasmine gripped the steering wheel, tears blurring the world. "I am done." She started the car and drove away, leaving behind the man she had loved and the version of herself that believed he would never betray her. Chapter 5. The Invitation. Jasmine took several days off work, hoping time would quiet the noise inside her mind. But the stillness of her apartment only made everything louder. The days blurred together into a slow, colorless drift, one indistinguishable from the next. Morning light slipped through the curtains without warmth. Afternoons passed without shape. Night stretched long and hollow, corridors she did not want to walk through but could not avoid. She moved through her home like a visitor who no longer recognized the space. Louis lingered everywhere. In the dent on the sofa cushion where he always sat, leaning back with his feet stretched out as if he owned the place. In the coffee mug he claimed as his favorite, chipped at the rim from the time he dropped it and laughed like it was nothing. In the playlist that still tried to start with their song whenever she forgot to change it. She told herself she was done with him. She repeated it like a vow, a promise spoken aloud so it would feel real. After what she witnessed in that office, after the humiliation and betrayal, she could not imagine wanting him again. But grief did not obey logic. It slipped through her defenses quietly, without permission, settling in corners where memory still lived. It reminded her that anger and longing could exist in the same breath, that loving someone did not disappear just because they shattered your trust. At night, when the traffic softened to a distant hum and the city settled into its own uneasy sleep, her mind drifted back to everything they once shared. Louis had been the first man she trusted after rebuilding herself piece by fragile piece. The first man she allowed to hold parts of her she had fought hard to reclaim. He knew her history. He knew what trust cost her, and he broke it anyway. She hated him for that. She also missed the version of him she loved before everything collapsed. Their early days lived inside her like a memory with its own warmth. The routines they built without thinking, the inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. His arms around her waist while she cooked, chin resting on her shoulder, as if the world ended right there in the kitchen. The way he used to watch her sleep as if memorizing peace itself. That contrast, the sweetness before the fall, made moving forward feel like climbing out of wet sand. Every step required effort. Every movement threatened to pull her back under. Eventually, she realized she could not hide forever. Her job was more than a paycheck. It was structure, identity, a place where she once felt competent and valued. She told herself she only needed to survive the first day back. If she could manage that, maybe the rest would follow. She dressed slowly, choosing clothes that made her feel steady rather than attractive. Her makeup was minimal, just enough to look awake. The woman in the mirror looked familiar but altered, as though the last week had carved new lines across her face that had not been there before. Walking into the office felt like stepping into a world she no longer belonged to. The familiar scent of paper and coffee greeted her, but nothing felt the same. She set her bag down and stared at the office phone. The small red light that once blinked with morning messages from Lewis sat dark and silent. There was a time when he called every morning. "Good morning, pretty girl. What color are you wearing today? You look serious when you start work. Smile for me. I love hearing your voice first thing in the day." She reached for the receiver, then pulled her hand back quickly. If she wanted to heal, she could not keep searching for him in the places he used to fill. She pulled a file toward her and tried to lose herself in the comfort of numbers. Accounting had always been a refuge. Numbers did not lie. Numbers did not betray. Numbers did not demand pieces of her she could not give. For nearly an hour, the rhythm steadied her. Then she realized Natalie had not arrived. Relief washed through her like an unexpected gift. A small mercy she did not question. Hope ended the moment Natalie walked past the doorway. Her perfume drifted behind her, bold and deliberate. Their eyes locked in a single charged instant, a spark hitting dry leaves. Jasmine held the stare. Natalie lifted her chin with a triumphant tilt, a silent message wrapped in a smile that did not need words. A supervisor called Natalie's name, and she broke the gaze with sugary brightness before walking away. Jasmine clenched her fists and swallowed the rising heat in her chest. Not here, not in this office, not in front of her. Nicole stopped by later with open arms and a cheerful welcome back. Jasmine hugged her longer than usual, clinging to even a small kindness in a place that now felt foreign. Nicole filled her in on updates, then lowered her voice. "You missed something wild," she said. "Natalie has a new man, and she will not stop talking about him. Says he treats her like royalty. Bathwater waiting, dinner ready. She is glowing." Jasmine's chest tightened. "And the craziest part," Nicole continued, laughing, "she said they went to his job and almost got caught by the cleaning crew because they could not keep their hands off each other." Jasmine's breath stilled. "I do not want to hear about her right now," she said, sharper than intended. Nicole apologized immediately. Jasmine apologized too, but her composure had already begun to fracture. At lunch, she escaped to the cafe, choosing a table in the far corner where she could hide behind a plant and a stack of napkins. She had taken only a few bites when laughter erupted nearby. Natalie, center of attention, owning the air. Nicole waved. Jasmine lifted a polite hand but kept her gaze down. Then Natalie spoke again. "I finally printed those amusement park pictures." Plastic rustled. Photos passed from hand to hand. Compliments followed. Nicole reached them last. She froze. Lewis, smiling, holding Natalie, standing in the place he once promised to take Jasmine again. Nicole's face drained. She looked at Jasmine, then quickly turned away. The truth was out now, all of it, and the pain still struck with the same unyielding force. Nicole found her later and whispered an apology. Jasmine told her everything, the confrontation, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights. She knew exactly who he was, Nicole said quietly. "I told her the day he came to pick you up." A new clarity settled inside Jasmine. Not peace, but direction. After work, she ran into Renee at the grocery store. Renee wrapped her in a tight hug. "You do not have to stay somewhere that hurts you," Renee said. "Let this be your moment to choose something better." She slipped a folded employment section into Jasmine's hand. That night, Jasmine rearranged the apartment. The couch moved. Frames came down. The room exhaled. She updated her resume, line by line, reminding herself of her strength. Tomorrow she would apply. Tomorrow she would choose herself. Before bed, she knelt and whispered a prayer she barely knew how to finish. Tomorrow would not fix everything, but tomorrow could begin something new. And somewhere between grief and determination, a new path waited for her step. Chapter 6. A Night of Discovery. Jasmine checked her email more often than she wanted to admit. Every new notification made her heart skip, only for most of them to turn out to be ads, reminders, or messages that had nothing to do with her future. She had sent out several resumes and gone on a few interviews, but nothing had turned into a solid offer yet. Meanwhile, work at her current job felt heavier every day. Natalie still moved through the office with a bright, smug glow, as if life had handed her a prize she had done nothing to earn. Most people now knew that Louis was Jasmine's ex. Conversations softened when she walked by. Eyes followed her down the hall. She could almost hear the questions they were too polite to say out loud. Some of them seemed to be waiting for a scene, a sharp confrontation in the break room. Raised voices, thrown words, something dramatic they could replay over lunch as entertainment. Jasmine refused to give them that. She knew that if she exploded at Natalie, no matter how justified her rage, people would twist it into bitterness. She would become an office story instead of a woman who had been hurt. Something in her life had to change, and it had to change soon. By mid-afternoon, she forced herself to open her personal inbox. She had avoided it all day, suspended between dread and hope. Among the usual clutter, one subject line made her sit up straighter. "Thank you for interviewing with us." Her heart began to pound. She whispered a quick prayer and clicked the message. The email invited her back for a second interview. She read it twice, slowly, as if the words might vanish if she blinked too fast. The position was with the accounting department at a local hospital. The pay was higher than what she earned now. The benefits were better. The environment, she hoped, would be kinder. She let out a long breath that felt like it had been trapped in her chest for weeks. She grabbed her phone and called Renee. "Girl, guess what?" "You sound like you have good news," Renee said. "Tell me now." "They want me back for a second interview. The hospital job, the one I wanted the most." Renee squealed so loudly Jasmine had to pull the phone away from her ear. "I knew it," Renee said. "When is it?" "Thursday morning. If you get this job, we are celebrating this weekend. No excuses." "If I get this job, we are celebrating more than the weekend," Jasmine replied with a small laugh. "I will bring fireworks." "You have got this," Renee said. "You are more than qualified. They would be out of their minds not to want you." When Thursday came, Renee called first thing. "I just wanted to say good luck before you walk in," she said. "Remember, they are interviewing you, but you are also interviewing them. Know your worth." "Thank you," Jasmine said softly. "I needed that." She had barely set the phone down when it rang again. She picked it up without checking the number. "This is Jasmine Simmons. How may I help you?" "Hello, Jazz." The sound of his voice made her stomach knot. "Louis, how are you?" he asked. "I was doing fine until now." "Ouch, that hurts." "What do you want, Louis? Why are you calling me?" "I wanted to wish you good luck." She frowned. "Good luck for what?" "Your interview." She went quiet for a moment. "Every day I have to see that woman. The pain follows me down every hallway. Oh, I am sorry. Did I offend you by calling her that? Let me be clear. I am finally moving on. And now you want to act concerned? Jasmine, you at least owe me." She did not let him finish. "I am heading out the door," she said. "What I want to say to you is not something I can say right now. You know what?" "What?" he asked quietly. "This is what I owe you." She ended the call and let the phone drop onto the bed. A breath she had been holding without realizing slipped out of her chest. It was not full closure, but it was something. A release. A small reclaiming of her own voice. There was so much more she could have said, but today was not about him. She dressed for the interview with careful intention. A soft blouse. A fitted skirt. Shoes that made her feel grounded rather than flashy. She arrived early and sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, hands resting on the steering wheel, whispering a quiet prayer before she stepped out. The interview lasted almost an hour. They asked about her experience, her approach to managing multiple accounts, the way she handled deadlines and tension. They seemed genuinely interested in what she knew and how she worked, not just how she looked sitting in front of them. When it ended, she thanked them and walked back to her car with a strange calm settling over her. Before starting the engine, she checked her phone. A new voicemail waited. She played it over the speaker. "Hello, Miss Simmons. This is Carla from the hospital accounting department. I am calling to let you know that we were very impressed with your interview and would like to offer you the position. Please call us back at your earliest convenience so we can discuss details." For a moment, she just stared through the windshield, letting the words sink in. Then an unexpected laugh broke out of her, full and bright, the first real laugh she had felt in what seemed like forever. She called Renee at once. "Renee, I got the job," she said, the smile clear in her voice. "We are going out this weekend. It is official." Renee screamed so loudly Jasmine had to hold the phone away again. "I knew it," Renee said. "New job, new season. Now we can finally go have some fun. It has been too long. This weekend, we let it all out." They talked for a few minutes longer. Jasmine told her about the call from Lewis and how she had ended it. Renee called him a creative list of names that made Jasmine laugh even harder. Beneath the jokes, there was something else in Renee's voice. A fierce satisfaction that he no longer had the power to keep Jasmine in place. When they hung up, Jasmine decided she deserved a small reward. She drove to the mall, wanting something new to wear for their night out. Something that felt like the version of herself she had been before everything shattered. Confident, playful, alive. She moved from store to store, running her fingers along fabric, checking prices. Nothing felt right. The clothes were too loud or too plain, too tight or too boxy. She wanted something that felt like a statement without begging for attention. On her way back to the car, a smaller boutique in a nearby plaza caught her eye. The display window showed a mannequin wearing a soft suede skirt that fell just above the knee, and a checkered halter-style top that looked elegant and bold at once. She stopped. That was the look. Inside, the clerk greeted her with a warm smile and led her to a fitting room. The outfit fit as if it had been waiting for her. The skirt hugged her curves without feeling restrictive. The top framed her shoulders and collarbone, making her feel both strong and feminine. For the first time in a long while, Jasmine looked in the mirror and saw a woman she recognized. Not only the wounded version, not only the broken one. The woman underneath all of that, the one who had never entirely left. She bought the outfit and stepped back into the sunlight, the shopping bag swinging lightly at her side. As she walked toward her car, another storefront across the parking lot caught her attention, a tattoo shop. She paused and stared at the sign. A quiet idea rose and settled inside her. She had moved furniture, updated her resume, secured a new job, but she wanted something that marked this season on her body, a reminder that would stay with her even when everything else shifted. She sat in the car for several minutes, thinking. She had never seriously considered getting a tattoo before. The idea made her nervous and excited at once. After a while, she opened the door and stepped out. Inside, the scented antiseptic and a faint trace of incense greeted her. A woman with warm eyes and ink along both arms stood at the counter. "Welcome. How can I help you today?" she asked. "I want to get a tattoo," Jasmine said. "This will be my first." "Congratulations," the woman replied with a grin. "First ones are special. They are usually the most meaningful, and they are not as bad as your mind tries to tell you. They can become a little addictive, though." "I see you have a few," Jasmine said, nodding toward her shoulder. "What made you get so many?" "Each one marks part of my life," the woman answered.
She turned slightly and pointed to a design near her shoulder blade. This one, for example. Jasmine leaned closer. The dagger? That is the one. It looks rough, but it is less about the blade and more about the story behind it. Someone I trusted hurt me in a way I never expected. This reminds me not to ignore the signs again. Jasmine nodded slowly. I understand that more than you know. Then you came to the right place, the woman said. Take your time and look through the designs on the wall. When something feels like it is calling to you, that is usually the one. Jasmine walked the length of the wall, studying each sample.
Some designs were bold and dark. Others were delicate and detailed. Flowers, words, symbols, animals. She passed over daggers, anchors, and flames and stopped at a small frame display of butterflies. One of them pulled her in at once. It was simple and graceful, a butterfly in mid-motion, wings curved as if it had just left the ground. It looked like change. It looked like leaving one form and becoming another. I found it, she said. The receptionist joined her. That one is beautiful. What size are you thinking? Small, Jasmine said. Enough to see clearly, but not so big that it takes over. Perfect. That will be around $65. Does that work for you? Yes, she replied. She filled out the forms, read the consent information, and signed. A few minutes later, a man with broad shoulders and ink along both arms stepped out from the back. I am John, he said. You must be Jasmine. Nice to meet you, she answered, trying to steady her voice. It is normal to be nervous, he said. We will take it step by step. You chose the butterfly. Yes. Good choice. Where would you like it? She thought for a moment, then touched the small of her back. Right here. He nodded. That is a subtle spot. A little secret you decide when to share. I like the sound of that. He showed her the sealed needles, explained aftercare, and made sure she was comfortable. When the device first touched her skin, the sting was sharp and bright. Slowly, it shifted into something she could breathe through. He talked while he worked, telling light stories about other clients, about how his girlfriend said his art helped people feel more like themselves.
Jasmine listened, but her mind drifted. She thought of Louis. Then she thought of Renee. Then she thought of herself. The girl she had been. The woman she had become. The survivor who kept standing. After a while, she asked for a short break. John wiped the area and handed her a mirror. Take a look at the outline, he said. She turned just enough to see. Even unfinished, the shape moved something inside her. The butterfly looked suspended between where it had been and where it was going. I love it, she said. Let us finish. Another 30 minutes or so and you will be all set, he replied. Time seemed to slow, then rush. Finally, he put the device aside and cleaned the area gently. All done, he said. Have another look. He held up the mirror. Jasmine turned and saw the completed design.
The butterfly sat perfectly centered, delicate and strong, wings lifted like a quiet promise. It is perfect, she said. Thank you. He went over the aftercare instructions and answered her questions. She thanked him, tipped him generously, and stepped back into the late afternoon light. This was hers, chosen by her, for her. On the drive home, she called Renee. Guess what else I did today? Jasmine said. Do not tell me you robbed a bank, Renee answered, because if you did, I want a cut. I got a tattoo. Renee let out a delighted scream. No, you did not. Where is it? What is it? I am coming over. I need to see it with my own eyes. They agreed to meet at Jasmine's place before going out that night. When Jasmine got home, she laid the new outfit across the bed and set the aftercare sheet by the bathroom mirror. This was hers, chosen by her, for her. She showered carefully, avoiding the fresh ink, then dried her hair and did her makeup with more intention than she had shown in months. She wanted to feel like herself again, not broken, not discarded, present. A soft knock sounded as she finished her second glass of wine. Renee swept in with her usual bright energy. Let me see it, she said. Do not make me beg. Jasmine laughed, turned around, and gently lifted her shirt enough to peel the bandage back as far as she safely could.
Renee leaned in and let out a low, appreciative sound. "It is beautiful," she said. "Why a butterfly?" "I wanted something that stood for a new beginning," Jasmine replied. "A reminder that I do not have to stay in the same form forever." Renee nodded slowly. Something flickered behind her eyes, a quick, quiet awareness that Jasmine was stepping into a life that did not revolve around anyone else. "That tattoo was made for you," she said. "Watch out, world. You are going to start breaking hearts again." Jasmine smiled. "Tonight, I just want to feel free. That is enough." "Free sounds perfect," Renee said. "But if freedom comes with a little attention, I am not mad at that either. New job, new outfit, new ink. Tonight is the start of your next chapter." Jasmine picked up her purse and checked the lock on the door. "Then let us go," she said. "It is time." They stepped out into the night, two women moving forward, each carrying her own secrets and scars, each holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, this really could be a new beginning.